Hello, Cheyenne.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, good. I got my friend B Rob in the studio. He's on the line too.
Hey,
So thanks for calling in. I
Yeah.
know I had you last week, but we had some audio trouble, but I got it fixed this time. So
Okay, cool.
your group is Justice for Jonathan Styres on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And why don't you tell us what's I kind of talked about it a little bit, but I'm not really too sure on all the details. Why don't you tell us what happened to Jonathan?
So Jonathan was killed by a non-Aboriginal man in Binbrook, Ontario.
Okay.
The man claims that he woke up at 3 in the morning. He looked out his window. He seen his truck light was on, and that he loaded his shotgun with 2 shells, went outside, and in his own words said he entered stealth mode and went to neutralize the threat. The man has a military background. He is a Canadian Army Reserve.
Okay.
So he goes outside and he says he catches John in his truck. The passenger door lock was punched out, he said, and that the steering column was kind of ripped apart with the wires exposed, and that John was trying to steal his truck. So he says he told him to put his hands up, and on the 911 call, he says he put his hands up. He takes a slight pause and says he put his hands out towards me to gun level. So I shot him. So he tells him to put his hands up, and before he gets a chance to put his hands up, he is shot in the chest, which was a fatal shot to the lung.
Uh-huh.
And then he was shot again in the back as the man stood over him.
Uh-huh.
So the man's name is Peter Cahill. He was found not guilty of second-degree murder by a jury of his peers.
And he's non-native, right?
Yeah, and he's a non-native man. The reason that we kind of hit this breaking point, when this happened, my friend went on Facebook and she was like, I feel like I have to do something. And so my answer to her was, okay, what do you want me to do? Like, what do you need from me? So she kind of just threw us all together. There's a group of about 22 of us that are, I think there's about 6 or 7 of us that are talking regularly. But
Right.
there's a group of 22 of us that are actually took part in the planning of the March on Canada Day in Queen's Park.
That was on the first, right?
Yeah, on July 1st.
Okay. Yeah.
And
I played Ava Hill's speech there, and I played your speech earlier.
yeah.
can I ask you how recent the incident was?
Hello.
Yep, sorry, what was that?
I just wanted to know how recent the incident was.
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you.
He wants to know how recent the incident was. Like, when did this happen?
The shooting was a few years ago. It was 2 years ago, and the verdict was in June.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
So he went through his trial in June and was found not guilty.
So he didn't get any
He,
charges.
No, he walked completely scot-free. He got nothing.
Wow.
There was no dangerous discharge of a firearm, even though it was in a residential area. Nothing, like absolutely nothing. He walked scot-free. Yeah. And the reason that we were so upset about it was because we just come off of the trial for the Bougie case,
Right.
the trial for the Tina Fontaine case, the trial for the Cindy Gladue case, and more recently now, a man had not charges dismissed, but he was found with time served. He was found with time served for killing a 2-year-old boy.
Wow.
And what he did was he drove his car through a restaurant window
What?
and pinned the little boy against the wall.
Damn.
And because they couldn't prove that he was drunk at the time because he refused a breathalyzer, which in Canada, well, in Ontario especially, but in Canada, if you refuse a breathalyzer, you are automatically charged with driving under the influence.
Yeah, I think that happens here too.
So he was found with time served for 10 months for dangerous driving. And during the time that he had been out of jail, a man that was unrelated to the family, I'm not really sure what the motivation was for this, but a man actually kidnapped him, held him hostage, and cut off his thumb. That man is serving 12 years.
Yeah.
So it's a non-native man who kidnapped a non-native man, cut off his thumb, and is serving 12 years. Well, this non-native man who killed a toddler served 10 months.
Yeah, that's that's crazy.
Yeah, that's not right.
It's to a point now where it almost feels like to us, when we walk out the door with a target on our back, because if you kill a Native person in Canada, you're not going to jail. You're not going to get charged. And if you do get charged, you're not going to get charged with anything that amounts to taking a life.
Right.
We have another case where the court case has just finished. It's actually one of the girls in our group. Her sister was killed by a man from our community, and he was found not guilty of causing her death. Even though he admitted that he hit her, and he left her for dead, he claimed that he hit a deer. He thought he hit a deer, he said. But now he never served jail time for this, nothing, and it's just kind of hitting a breaking point with us where we have to stand up and we have to say something.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of talked about it earlier too. The missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada is like so rampant up there.
Sorry, I can't quite hear you. My baby's playing with something in the back.
I just said the missing and murdered Indigenous women is like so I'd say out of control out there, because it seems like that the Canadian authorities kind of regard Natives as almost the second class citizens.
Yeah, the problem that we find with that issue is that a lot of times when Native women are reported missing, just Native people in general, when we're reported missing,
right,
the authorities don't do what they should do. They don't open an investigation. They don't call Amber Alerts for our kids. It's almost as if they don't care until they find the body, kind of deal.
right.
And even then, they don't really do anything about it. And it's not even just a Canadian problem. The reason that Canada is at the forefront of the missing and murdered Indigenous women is because the RCMP released a number after years of families coming forward and saying, we want to know how many women are missing. And they gave us a number of 500. And before the year was up, we had almost 4,000 families come forward saying that, their person was missing or their person was murdered and the police did nothing. So the number was significantly higher than what they actually released to us, but the FBI hasn't done that. And we've been asking the FBI to release that number because the number in the United States is significantly higher than Canada, because the population of the United States is bigger. Like we only make up 4% of the Canadian population, right? Like all of us.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a problem. It needs to be exposed. Like you said, you guys are at the forefront. I think somebody needs to do it here in the States, and I'm so glad that it's you guys, the women, standing up, because part of being onwe is the women are the mothers, they're the life givers. And it's definitely great to see you guys standing up for this.
Yeah, we kind of took the stance that we're the mothers. I have 3 kids. I have a daughter that's going to be 15 in a few months. I have a son that's 11. I have a baby. Like, I have to think about what is going to happen. Like, my daughter will be leaving for college in 2 years.
Right.
And that's that when that realization hit, I'm like, I don't know if I can handle that, because I don't know how safe she's going to be when she's not in my home. Right. And I don't know where she is, and I'm not with her or in constant contact with her. And, same with my son. Like, my son will be gone in 6 years to go to college, and it's scary because it's so easy for people to just pull a trigger on a Native person and say, well, I felt like my life was in danger.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, that shouldn't fly, because we don't have a stand your ground law in Canada. We don't have any law in Canada that says it's legal for you to exit your home when you're in danger or feeling that you're in danger and shoot somebody twice. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that says you can exit your home, you can shoot somebody in the back because you felt like you were in danger.
Right. Yeah, and it's not just, you know, that. I mean, that's a huge problem, but also, like you were saying in the video I played earlier, you were talking about generational trauma, historical trauma, and that definitely has a lot to do with the stuff going on. Like you said, you being a mother, I'm a father. You know, B Rob has kids, and you know, it's worried about, you know, drugs too as well. You know,
Yeah.
assaults, all that, and I think that all that
Yeah,
stuff. Go ahead.
our abuse rates are so much higher because we have that generational trauma. And coming from Six Nations, we're home to the first residential school in Canada.
Right.
So the Mohawk Institute was the first residential school that opened, and it closed in 1970. But you know, between the 1800s and 1970. That saw about half of the population of our children go through that school. And there was periods of time where, you know, it was a good place to be, and the kids got meals and they were treated good. But there was more periods of time where the kids were sexually abused, they were physically abused, they were mutilated. There was medical testing done on these kids. Like, it's insane the amount of abuses that happened. And then those kids, in turn, came home, had kids of their own, and then abused their own kids who felt like that was normal, so they kept up that cycle of abuse, right?
Yeah, and I'd mentioned earlier too that language was lost only in a few generations because of that.
Yeah, within a few generations, the language was completely gone.
If what can people do to help for justice for Jonathan Styres?
So the appeal process has begun. The Crown, from his case, have put in their recommendations for an appeal. That the process is pretty long. So the appeal goes to their boss, who would then approve and send it to their boss, who would then approve and send it to the Attorney General. So what we've been asking people to do, and what we're going to do, is we have a letter on the Justice for Jonathan Styres Facebook page.
Okay.
So it's Justice for Jonathan Styres, Six Nations of the Grand River Territory on Facebook.
Right.
And there's a Word document and there's a PDF letter. So you can take that letter, you can email it to the Attorney General. All of the email addresses and everything that you need are in that group. So we're asking people to kind of just flood them with letters rather than signing a petition. Because if they keep seeing that, you know, people are sending in daily rather than us just handing them a petition at the end of the month, I feel like it might have a little bit more significance.
Yeah.
So we have the letters on the group. You can print them off, sign them, mail them in, or you can fax them in or whatever, or you can email them would probably be the easiest. So the email address is there. And there's also a link to the website where you can send your own email if you want to type up your own message to the Attorney General.
Okay.
And the letter, the basic gist of the letter is that we are asserting ourselves as allies to the Crown, and as allies to the Crown, we are supporting this appeal process.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have that link up and stuff too. I'll definitely promote your group. You guys are doing a lot of good work up there.
Thank you.
I'd love to have you on the show again. Update us with anything that happens on the case.
Mm-hmm. I know we were trying to come out for border crossing, but life happens.
When is that?
So I'm not sure how many are going to be able to make it out.
When is that?
That would be Saturday, I believe, is border crossing.
Okay.
Right. Pull your arm out.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I'll definitely be in touch.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, skongay.
All right, hola.